Hello and welcome back to the J&Z podcast, or should I say, the J&Q podcast. That's right. Zeth's not able to make it today, but his internet's being real spotty. So instead, instead of being our guest, we're actually just replacing him with my dear friend here, Quinn. Uh, say hi, Quinn.
Hello.
Oh, sorry about the jump scare there. So this is my good friend Quinn. We like play games together. I finally met him when we went. I'm not going to share any of my personal information. We may have said our first and last names, both of us, on our very first podcast episode. Certainly don't regret doing that at all. But
Nice.
none of this is making it in, so it's totally fine.
I'll make sure to tell him my middle name too. Here's my social security number.
Yeah, you want to hold up your driver's license there? Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'll tell him your grandma's phone number.
I know all the ladies will want it.
Yeah. And your grandma will be your wingman. Tell you how nice a boy you are. Anyways,
Oh
um,
no.
so this movie is clearly the second movie in the Black Panther franchise here. Um, they had quite the departure, considering the very sad death of Chadwick Boseman. And they kind of had to play with some things, totally rewrite the whole movie. So I cut him some slack for that. In general, movie was about his sister, um, and it wasn't very
Sherry.
good. No, okay, I'm getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here. What was his sister's name? Actually, I forgot. I swear I watched this movie an
Sherry.
hour ago. I'm not even joking. Shuri? Siri?
Yeah. Sherry.
Which
It's
one?
like Siri with an
Shuri.
H.
Okay,
Sherry.
Shuri. Um, So instead, this movie was about his sister Shuri as the princess, and eventually as the new queen slash Black Panther. There's this. They end up fighting against this group of people that are like fish people, I guess, and they drink they drink the uranium or vibranium juice from the vibranium plant, and then they grow gills, and then they didn't, and then they wanted to take over the world, so they had to stop them. That's pretty much the gist of it. um Starting things off, though, before I get too heavy into any plot details, I must say this movie was quite long. A little bit too long, in fact. What do you think about that, Quinn? What are your thoughts on the movie length?
I get what you mean. I feel like there wasn't a good mix of like dialogue and action. It seemed like there was just really dialogue and story heavy, which like
It
I
was.
understand for the circumstances. But I would like to see more action. Like the first movie had a lot of action.
I totally agree. And on one hand, I do appreciate what Marvel's doing, and they're kind of like, okay, people don't like it when we're super goofy all the time, making all these ridiculous puns and everything. People don't like that. I just feel like they went so far in the other direction that they just ended up making it boring. Like half the
Yeah,
time with the movie, it's not even like they're talking. They're just kind of like staring at each other and thinking silently. this movie was this movie was 2 hours and 45 minutes, and you felt every
jeez.
second of it.
Yeah.
I
I didn't
kid
realize
you
it was that
not.
long.
I just recently watched this in the theater. I think you did too, but like I literally just got home from watching it, so it's still
Hmm.
fresh in my mind. It just dragged out. I hate to say it. Before I get into anything else, that was a long movie.
Yeah. I think you brought up about like how they made it really serious. I don't mind the serious side of it. There just wasn't a character in the movie like Marvel usually has where they provide comedic relief. Like I guess you could say Ironheart, but she wasn't really always funny. And it's
Yeah,
like
she was.
Shuri was
There was a
always that
couple
person.
like little jokes in the middle. That was it.
Yeah.
No, everybody else was dead serious, which I do appreciate. It just
Hmm.
there was just too much of it. I don't know. They just kind of swayed a bit too far in that direction, I feel.
Yeah. At least it wasn't like Thor though.
Oh my gosh. I'd rather watch this 10 times over than watch Thor again. My goodness.
Yes.
But that's totally for a different time, different video.
If
There is
if
no
Zeth were
screaming
here,
goats in this movie, thank goodness.
yeah, or Hammer love affairs.
Oh my goodness. What a what a crazy movie that was.
That was crazy.
But yeah, I just felt that this movie it it needed so the nice thing about like let's just say the Batman, it's a pretty story driven, very serious movie and it doesn't have a ton of action per se. But when it does have action, it's actually stellar, like the car
Yeah,
chase. And even I'd say the ending, fight was I mean, it wasn't amazing, it was just fine, but like it was pretty good.
yeah. No, the ending is yeah,
This one had some okay-ish fight scenes. I liked the fight on the bridge and the car
yeah,
chase
dude.
part was
Atuma,
okay. And then I liked the fight between Shuri and as Black Panther and the fish guy with the feet wings.
Namor. Come on now,
What's his name?
Namor. Come on, can't just say fish
Namor.
guy.
Bro, I'm just
This
gonna
is
call him Fish
day
Stick.
one. This is one of the first ever Marvel characters, Jace. Come on.
And I hate to say it, his design is so stupid.
What, bro? I like it.
It it's the butterfly feet. It's the hummingbird feet things. They
I
just
know, but
don't
it's
do it for me.
classic. It's
It's
classic.
classic. Yeah, the classic comics look old and they read like it too. I've read at least the original Spider-Man comics and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of glad we moved away from this goofy stuff. But I think besides the feet things and the fact that he like flew around like a fairy, I thought everything else was like kind of cool about him though.
The bone in his nose.
The bone in his nose, it was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Um so it has this movie also give it some props for its visuals. I feel like it was mostly good CGI. The water
Hmm.
stuff's hard. It was good for water stuff. Like Aquaman, it never looks right. It just doesn't.
Mm.
But as far as like I've seen way worse is all. I just never water stuff never looks right to me.
What I appreciate about this was when they were in water, it felt like they were in water. Like they were like breathing heavy and you could see like the bubbles. Like in Aquaman, my problem was they were just swimming around talking like it was just like normal, just like oxygen.
Yeah, that's
And that,
true.
I don't know, that kind of bugged me.
Well, they did like do some voice modulation stuff. I'd argue even more so than in this movie, but in this movie they just didn't speak when they were underwater for the
Mm.
most part. In fact, I think there's hardly ever any talking, which did not help this movie's boring feel, might I add.
Yeah.
It just and I
The
wasn't so
visuals of the
sure
city, though,
the
come
city
on.
looked nice.
Yeah.
One thing that also looked just a little off to me was Ironheart's design. It looked
Yeah.
very plasticky, a little like almost a little too artificial.
Hmm.
And I just kind of wish they did a bit more with the character. I don't care too much about what the comics say or whatever. It's like there's all this cool vibranium stuff, all this cool Wakandan stuff they could do, and they just made another Iron Man. It's like when
Yeah.
they
Like,
turned Spider Man into Iron Man again. I just felt like it was Iron Man, but just a little worse.
yeah. Tony Stark built his suit in a cave with a box of scraps. And his looked 10 times better than hers. And she literally had the most advanced city country in the world at her disposal to build her suit. And it
Yeah,
looks stupid.
it just didn't. It something just did not feel right with that. It was partially the way it looked, And also the way it acted, like especially in the first Iron Man movie, Iron Man's suit had like this like grit to it. Like it was like
Hmm.
super realistic. Like that like you could tell that thing meant business.
Yeah.
The way this suit moved and looked in this movie, it just looked ridiculous. I hate to say it. I just wish that they'd, made like some kind of cool Wakandan suit, I guess. Like the ones they made for the two other guards at the end. Like if she wore one of
Oh
those, that'd be kind of
gosh.
cool.
I
They're at least a
hated
little
those
better.
suits.
They're a
I
little better
hated
than
those. They're
why?
better. Yeah. I,
I mean, they're not
they
perfect.
just
I
look like
still wasn't thrilled, but
Iron Predator. Just a Predator suit.
Yep,
And
that's
here's my
100%
issue.
true.
Here's my issue.
Yeah,
These Okoye and I forget the name of the other one who had the suit, but the other Dora Milaje guard,
yeah.
they're like really high skilled and they're trained in hand to hand and like spear combat. And then they just take these suits and they're like, "Oh yeah, now you have the powers of Superman." And it just ruins it for me. Cuz then it's
It,
like, what's so special? They can just fly over there and hit Atuma really hard and he's going to get knocked out. Like I want another fight like on the bridge scene in the earlier movie between Okoye and Atuma. Like I wanted another one of those fights and we just didn't really get it. That
the
just kind
bridge
of
scene was a highlight, I feel. I
mhm.
think it's probably the second best fight in the thing, and it just you could really that one you could really feel the impact. You could really feel every punch. Like it was so
Mhm.
sweet when he like threw his spear down and he like clotheslined her on it. Like that was so cool.
Yeah.
Like it was just fun to watch. It felt like everything had impact. Like it actually hurt.
Yeah. And he
On
felt
that
really
boat,
menacing.
the boat, on the other hand, it just felt like a mindless horde of just people. Like
Yeah.
they're a little bit more fleshed out than some, but like I could not care less about what was happening on the boat. I really like
Yeah.
Shuri versus again, what's his name?
Namor.
Namor. That one actually had some stakes, and I liked how that one. I liked how that one kind of wrapped up, and
Mhm.
it was just kind of a cool fight overall. I'm glad they finally got Shuri into the Black Panther suit. I felt like they could have done that an hour before they actually did instead of the last like 20 minutes of the movie, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
There's something about the MCU, right? Before we go on, it's whenever they kill somebody, besides in like Endgame, whenever they kill somebody, it just gets nothing out of me. They always like they play it up to an extent, but like when Aunt May died, I'm like, I could barely even register what happened, and it just moved so fast, and I'm like,
mhm.
I just didn't feel it. Same thing like when the Queen died. Same thing, you know, they just have a way of making it not have as much of an impact as I feel other ones could. It just always feels like you're watching them die at a distance instead of like there's like a sudden realization that they're dead and something impactful. It's always like something weird. Where you never
Yeah.
really I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the way they sent Chadwick Boseman out was perfect.
Okay, that
I
was
really liked what
besides
they
that.
did because they paid great tribute to him, and I'm so glad they didn't try and CGI him in there because to me it would have just ruined it. It's like he's gone, his legacy's gone. Let's leave it at that. It's so sad like that he passed. Like the whole time during the movie, I was like, could you imagine this movie with Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther?
I think it
Like,
would have been really
imagine
cool if
how
they
good it would
like
have been.
put him in space and then like his ship blows up and then he like Mary Poppins back to the ship. I think that would
Yondu?
have been super cool, just all CGI.
No. What? How did you even come up with that?
I did it. That's exactly what they did with Princess Leia.
Oh gosh.
Don't you remember in
That's
the
so
Last
that's
Jedi?
so true.
So, but yeah, as a story and a plot device, I feel like the story was okay.
I
Some
like
things
the
felt
story.
a little ridiculous almost, not ridiculous, but like it's all over this one scientist girl that, she's like really smart, and she comes up with a way to basically find vibranium. It's like a sensor, it's super accurate. She basically builds it in her garage or whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole point is they find some vibranium, and so these like fish people come and kill everybody because they don't want them to find out. And so they have
Uh,
to kidnap her, Wakanda does, in order to not so they want to protect her, but they also don't want the fish people secret getting out to the world.
Stop calling them fish people.
That's all they are to me. I don't know what else to say. The blue fish people. Okay. The
I
blue
forget.
man fish group.
In the comics, they were Atlanteans, but they're called like Talikins now. I
Yeah,
forget what the city's called.
it's some weird
Yeah,
name. It
like
starts with a T. You're not wrong.
yeah. Let's just call them the Blue Tees. Better than
The
fish
blue
people.
tees. The and it just feels like they're literally going to wage war on Wakanda and then the rest of the world, all because Wakanda says they'll keep the girl safe in their secluded like area that nobody's ever going to bother with instead of killing her.
But see,
So
that's why
so they kill
Namor's
everybody over that.
that's why Namor's so great because he's just an absolute idiot throughout like the whole comics. Like at one point in the comics, he sent a tidal wave on Wakanda. I forget what it was. It had something to do with Doctor Doom, where it was like he was basically petty, and he was like, "Oh, I don't like that you did this. I'm gonna destroy half of your city." And it's just
Hmm.
like I feel like that's good that they had that in there. Like you want a villain who's intimidating. Like in the movie, they Wakandans killed one of the fish people. Gosh, you got me
Yeah.
calling them fish people now. And then he just went and like destroyed half the city and killed a bunch of people. Like that's the kind of villain you want. That's like an intimidation
That
factor.
was kind of cool. That was really neat. It just, I don't know. There's just something about it that they somehow have these grandiose fights, but you never like feel the impact of them. Like there's never just a huge thing that happens. It's always like I wish he sent like a tidal wave or something, and he's like, that's only like a fraction of my strength. Enjoy your
Hmm.
dead queen or something. Like he could have done that. But he like had the
Enjoy your
water
dead
like
queen.
trickle in, and then like a little like wave pool wave kind of go through the city, and then it like
Yeah,
receded and it was over. And he's like, "You better watch it."
yeah.
As
Well,
if he
I
didn't
had
like
a
turn Wakanda into a kiddie pool. Like, come on.
yeah. I had a problem with his voice at points, Namor. Like I
I
really
kind
liked
of
him,
liked it.
but like it was only at points like like after he killed the queen and he's
Mm.
flying in the like in the windows of the tower and he's like threatening him. He didn't sound threatening enough to me. Like he just sounded like his normal voice, just higher pitched. I kind of
No,
wish
no,
he
he
would have
didn't.
had more of a like a more broody tone towards him. Instead of
I
like, I will
agree. I
come back
agree.
and
I
kill your
still liked
people.
his actor though.
Yeah, no, I thought he did a good job.
I agree
You
with
you know
what
what
you're
I mean?
saying
He
though.
went,
Yeah, he could have been
yeah,
more menacing.
like he would
He did
say,
so
I
more
will
with
come
his
back and kill your
actions,
people.
like when he like smacked what's his name just in the chest super hard, just
Oh,
not even
M'Baku,
looking at him.
my boy M'Baku,
Yeah,
my favorite Marvel
that was
character.
so cool. That scene went really fun. Like that was hard. I mean,
Yeah,
that
no,
was kind of a cool shot. I liked some of the slow mo stuff that they did like that. Some of
hmm,
it was a little unnecessary, but some of it was actually
yeah,
kind of cool.
no, I agree with you. I felt like at some points it felt like we were watching a DC movie with all the slow mo, and I was like, I've never been a
I
huge fan of
know.
slow mo.
Every time now. Have you seen Hobbs and Shaw? We're gonna have to make a video on it. Every time I see slow
Yes.
mo like that, I
Oh
think of the
no.
Hobbs and Shaw fighting scene. just so realistic
Slow
and like
mo's
sweat dripping off. And we're not getting too sidetracked. What are you saying?
well,
What's up?
slow mo isn't bad. It's so bad when they do slow mo and then they play the heavy rock music and it's like when it's a slow mo, and then it just ruins it.
I think that when they go to do slow mo, I think it's perfectly good. I think they should even use it more. But it's the way they linger on it. Like, how
Hmm.
cool would it have been if he just like smacked him and just for like a second or two time slowed down and it just sped up right back? Like it was on
Yeah,
it, it was lingering that chest shot for like 5-10 seconds, and then you're
yeah.
like if you're just not expecting it and all of a sudden it's over and then it's like back to full speed, like that goes that you feel the impact way harder. I feel like they just especially like when it's like collateral, like the city falling apart in slow motion, like that's just a little unnecessary. That could just be normal
Hmm.
speed. It is kind of cool in fights though, just not Hobbs and Shaw
Yeah,
levels. The whole fight was slow mo, but uh, I just overall though, those were just kind of the highlights of the movie. I
yeah.
just there was just so much talking and just some of the driest conversation. Like it's meant to feel like super emotional and impactful, but they end up saying like 5 sentences over the course of 15 minutes. I don't know how they managed to do it. Like they just say something and then they just stand there and then they'll just think about it and then
Hmm.
they'll walk over there and just like and then they'll finally say something. It's the same thing. I don't It just did not. It was just so much of it, and it just didn't work for me.
What did you think about her suit?
I thought her suit was cool. Um, I like Black Panther's suit. I think it looks super menacing in general. Pretty much every iteration of it, and it's a real. I love the design of it, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I have no bad things to say. I'm glad that she is the Black Panther at this point. I think somebody needed to fill it. I was really getting concerned by the end of the movie whether or not anybody would be the Black Panther, because like see, and okay, wait. Here's my question, right? So in the first movie, Chadwick Boseman's his character was gonna be T'Challa was gonna become king, and then somebody challenged him.
Yeah, it's Killmonger.
Killmonger challenged him, right? Did the Queen have to do that? Because that
What
would
do
have
you
been
mean?
kind of cool. So like he died, then she became the queen. He only got to become king because his dad died. I thought it happened every time there was a new ruler. Or is that
I don't
for the Black Panther? Or is it for the ruler? I don't remember. Or is it both?
know. It's for the ruler because in the new movie, Shuri's Black Panther, but the king of Wakanda is M'Baku now because they showed the waterfall and he like got out of the ship and he said, "I want to challenge for Black Panther or for the king," and like I don't think anyone stood up against him, so now he's king. So I think she
Hmm.
was just like queen by default, maybe. I don't know, like
I
family
guess so. I
family
think it would
line.
have been kind of cool to see her fight like as a old lady. But
Yeah.
just a missed opportunity there. I think I would have rather seen that than some of the other talking scenes. But I was just kind of confused there because I thought that only the king could become the Black Panther because I just you've never really seen
Mm-mm.
otherwise until now.
No, I think you just have to be like you have to be part of like the family, like in the family line.
Oh,
Because
okay, that makes
even
sense.
when even when T'Challa was Black Panther, he wasn't king because his dad was king. T'Chaka, pretty sure his name's T'Chaka.
Oh, you're
T'Chaka was
right. You're
king,
right.
and he was Black Panther, and he was like the prince. So I think it's just like family heritage.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thanks for clearing that up. Man, this movie could have been an hour shorter and it would have gotten the same message across, but better. I just don't know why they dragged it out so long. It
Hmm.
I hate coming back to it. But did it feel super long for you?
In the middle, to me, it felt really long in the middle. Like when he was kind of showing her. like all the underwater kingdom and everything, and like
Yep.
they kidnapped her. I felt like that was kind of unnecessary to the plot of like kidnapping her. Like, why didn't they just take Ironheart and then keep her in Wakanda, and then they get mad at them? Like, you can eliminate the whole part of her being kidnapped by just
I
keeping her at
totally agree.
Wakanda, and then Namor would be mad because they're keeping her at Wakanda, and he would attack. It's the same storyline, just without that in the middle.
They only did it really to show, you know, to I guess I didn't even have to do it to explain their backstory. I think they did it mostly to show off the underwater kingdom.
Yeah. Well,
But
they showed a lot of Namor's like backstory too, though, which I liked
right.
actually.
But I think they could have. I think that could have been brought up anytime almost. I think there could have
Hmm.
been other situations written in that didn't have to have this elaborate setup of kidnapping and tours and all this other stuff that was just okay.
Tours.
It
Yeah,
was a tour and it was silent the whole time. It was like a good 5-10 minutes of just silence, just drifting
yeah.
around.
And then there
Oh
was
my
some like
goodness.
funky song that would come in.
Oh,
Well,
so true.
I thought Namor's backstory was good, but I agree. It could be brought up at any point.
I just
So,
wish they'd make some more menacing villains. He just didn't feel all that menacing. His design, especially with the wings, were not helping him in that department. And then his actions just weren't that crazy.
well,
I
you
like it when
also,
there's big, powerful villains that, just their very presence, like Thanos. I'm not saying Thanos level, but like Thanos shows up, you start getting nervous.
mhm,
You're like, oh man, he could he's super strong. Like, I don't know. I
yeah,
never really felt that for a lot of these villains.
yeah, I know what you mean, and it's crazy that they weren't able to expand on that more because, like in the comics, Namor is like one of the biggest bad guys. Like he's just crazy. And it kind of sucks they didn't do that, but I feel like at the same time, it was really like they had to tone him down because you have Shuri as Black Panther. This is like her first time fighting someone, and he had to be toned down, like where they had to heat him up or whatever, so he wouldn't be as powerful.
Right.
So I hope in the future we get more glimpses of him as just being crazy, like just
Yeah, I
going
agree.
ham on people.
And I think he's going to be back, but I like that Marvel. One thing I'll give him some credit for is they get their fights are a little bit more impactful. Like, let's just say the first Iron Man, the ending was kind of like more than others would kind of show for going out, but like you feel like every hit does nothing in most of these movies. Like, it doesn't matter every
Mhm.
punch, but like when it was Shuri versus Namor on that beach and he like literally like stabbed her through the gut
Yeah.
with that spear, you're like, "Oh my gosh, like that actually has like that actually has consequences. That actually is like super serious all of a sudden." That's the kind of stuff that makes people pay attention, and that's the kind
Mhm.
of stuff I like. I like not knowing when something's going to pop off. Like I mean, I kind of like the villains that I'm like, oh man, like at any given moment, somebody can get like seriously hurt or die or something. It just raises the stakes. It makes it so much more interesting to watch.
Yeah, I agree with
I
you.
feel like they've gotten a bit better at that ever since like Avengers, probably Age of Ultron. They've gotten a tad better and then a lot better more recently. It's just a shame the rest of their movies are just the movies besides that are just kind of meh.
Yeah. I think
But again, it's oh, go ahead.
I think that what I didn't really like about her getting stabbed too, though, was how she just like pulled it out and got out, and she's just perfectly fine. It's like, really?
Kind
Come
of.
on.
She wasn't for the first bit. And it's
Yeah.
not like they actually no, it really I don't think so. I think you might not be remembering it 100%. It She was still kind of like holding her side and she like did one more attack. She like blew up the thing. And she had to go like that. That's all
Oh,
she had to
that's
do.
right.
And then
Yeah,
she
she
like
didn't
fell
attack
over.
him. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie though. In that fight, I wasn't really rooting for Shuri's Black Panther. I found
No?
myself rooting for Namor because I feel like I care about the character more. That probably sounds bad, but
No, I
to
get it.
me,
I totally get it. They had all this
yeah,
movie full of talking, and I still feel like I barely know this character. It just feels like a
yeah,
caricature of somebody that's mad. I
yeah.
don't understand
They
how they did it.
they just there was no character development from Shuri in every movie she's been in. Like Black Panther 1, she was always just kind of like the side character who was funny and like provided the technology to T'Challa.
Yeah,
And then she was never really in any other movie that much. And then you just throw her in the lead role for a whole movie. It just like I understand like you have to do
they
it.
forced their hand,
But
but
yeah, but in my opinion, I think they should just recast. That's going to be controversial.
no, I don't
I
see
think they should
that.
have recasted. Bro, just listen to me. It would make how can you have Black Panther in Marvel and only have one movie where it's one solo movie where it's T'Challa's Black Panther? That's just not right to me. Like,
I mean, he was still in Civil War, he was still in both Avengers movies, he was still in
yeah,
he had more of a presence than and it was such an impactful first movie that if it was literally anybody else I'd say yes, but that movie just means a lot to so many people that it's kind of hard to just replace him like that, you know?
yeah,
Like he did a
yeah, I
lot for
understand.
people.
Yeah.
So, that's how I personally kind of feel about it, but I know what you're saying. I just don't think it's that big a deal. I think she'll make a perfectly good Black Panther, but it doesn't
She just
leave
needs
me
to beef
super
up a little
hopeful
bit.
for the next wars. I was ever since Endgame killed all of everybody's favorite people, I thought they had more of a plan going into this,
They're
but
rushing it.
they are rushing it. They have all these like it took them a solid decade to build up the other one, if not more, 15 years probably. And then in this one
Hmm.
it's like 3 years, 5 years maybe. And there's probably twice as many films and movies as there or films and TV
Yeah.
shows as there was. It's going so
And they,
fast and none of the characters hit even remotely as well as the originals.
mm and all the good characters are characters who are from the originals, like
They are.
Hawkeye and Sam Wilson and Bucky and like Wanda, Vision, Doctor Strange, Spider Man. Like those are the only ones I care about. I will say I was a very big critic of Shang-Chi at first, but I've watched it over and it's not too bad. I actually kind of like it. And
Mm.
I like his character. Like he's the only new one that I've him and Kate Bishop are the only two that I've actually found like an attachment towards. Everyone else I couldn't care less, honestly.
I haven't even seen that movie. I haven't seen that one, haven't seen Eternals, haven't seen probably 75% of everything they've released. I just haven't felt a need to.
Hmm.
It just doesn't feel the same. All the other movies felt like there were their own separate stories in the same universe, but they all felt like they had a big impact on each other. Like, but even before they started collaborating, you could find you sense that something was building up a bit, and they
Yeah.
started introducing like some really good characters in some decent movies, and that worked out great for them. Now it feels like, I guess the only way to describe it, I feel, is like I'm watching it from afar. Like it's so far removed from what it once was. I'm just kind of watching
Hmm.
like a little side story almost.
Yeah. You're not focusing on just one character anymore. It's like with every movie there has to be like four other side characters, which I don't like.
I guess it may just be like even like sequel whatever, it's never quite as good, but like you watch the Iron Man movies for instance, and they're all like about Iron Man, I guess. I know it sounds stupid to say that, but
No, I know.
they all
Yeah.
felt super personal, whereas like I watched this one and it feels like it's about a kingdom. It feels like I'm watching characters that I barely know like do
Hmm.
everything. I don't feel like that close to any of them. They all just and they don't do a great job. They somehow made it a movie about grieving and about deep personal relationships, and they still managed to just make me not really feel too much towards the main character.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yeah, I understand. It To your point of like Iron Man, I miss those days when it was like it was a movie about Iron Man and it wasn't, and props to Black Panther because it wasn't a movie about the world ending threat, which I'm happy about.
It was,
And but
but
that's how Iron Man was too. It was never a world ending threat, it was a personal threat. Like in the first movie, there was Ironmonger. That was Obadiah Stane, who was like Tony's mentor. And then it was
yeah,
Whiplash. And he was like Tony Stark, like he hated Tony Stark. And then it was Aldrich Killian, which I thought he was kind of lame, but even then it was like a personal villain.
yeah,
And I think Namor is a really personal villain. It just doesn't work as much with Shuri as Black Panther as it would have T'Challa because they've always had a really big rivalry. So then it's like, how do you develop this rivalry? They just kind of made it about the two kingdoms instead of the two characters, which I don't
I know.
necessarily mind,
It's on
but I
such a
don't know.
bigger scale now every single time. The only one, you're right. And I feel like their best their best example of still kind of keeping that feeling has been in the Spider-Man movies. But yeah, I feel like in the Spider-Man movies, they do a somewhat decent job of keeping Peter Parker under control. Like No Way Home was a little pushing it, but it still felt like a Spider-Man story, not like crazy like these.
Hmm. It felt like Marvel.
Just, it felt a lot more like Marvel than the stuff that's actually 100% owned by Marvel's been putting out.
I just think they need to go back to their directors. They need the Russo brothers back. They need John Favreau back. Like, what's the Spider-Man's director? I forget his name. It's John Watts. He's great.
Yep.
All the Spider-Man movies have been great. Like all the Spider-Man movies, that's the best trilogy right now in the MCU. I feel like. I think Captain America is probably up there though.
Yeah, I
But
was
like
about to
all
say
those
Captain
movies are so
America.
good. What?
No, you're right, Captain America probably, but yeah,
Yeah,
they're just overall enjoyable films to watch in their own ways.
yeah. But but even with this movie, I'm pretty sure this is the same director that directed the first one, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Which I'm glad they did that because even though it wasn't great, to me, it was a lot better than anything else they've been putting out. And it feels like they're getting back to Marvel from like this crazy mess that Phase 4 has been. Like this movie felt closer to a Marvel movie than any other movie besides like No Way Home.
I agree. And I just feel like if they could have less side characters, especially in this movie, I felt it bogged it down a bit. Something more like, I guess I keep bringing it up, original Iron Man. There's only a few people, but you actually cared about those people. How many
Mhm.
different people did Shuri talk to in this movie where I didn't even know who they were? There was
Yeah,
probably 5 different people. I'm like, who even are you? I don't even understand like what your role is in this movie, and you have like heart after like it's like a heart to heart every time, and then she meets some other person I've never even seen before. I don't even
yeah,
remember, and they're like, "It's been so long," and I'm like, "I don't even know who you are. I don't know."
yeah. I know.
Whereas in
No, I
Iron
know
Man,
what
it's
you're
like, "Oh,
saying.
it's Pepper. Okay, yeah." It's
Yeah,
like, go ahead.
I know what you're saying. They introduced that the bald lady who's a Dora Milaje, and she's never been in any of the movies before. I had no idea who she was, and I didn't feel like it was necessary to introduce a new character when there's so many characters that Shuri
She was
has,
the
like
same
M'Baku.
person as the other bald lady,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
less
I
cool.
do
She did
like
the
Okoye
same
though.
thing. I love her.
Yeah,
She's great, but like I didn't
yeah,
need two of them. She added nothing. She could have not been in
yeah,
the movie and I would not have noticed. Same thing with
hmm,
every other person she talked to.
yeah. And the difference is like the side characters in like Iron Man, to your example again. The side characters, you look at them and it's like Happy Hogan, Iron Man's best
Mm-hmm.
friend, or Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow. Like you need to introduce them because they're key characters in Marvel, and it feels like these characters that they're introducing, they're not gonna play a key role,
No, they
you
don't.
know?
They hardly matter in their own movie, let alone in anything
Yeah.
else.
Like the only characters I care about besides Shuri is M'Baku because he's king, and
Mm-hmm.
then Okoye because they've always been pretty close, and Nakia, I guess, because obviously with her
I have
son and
such a hard
everything.
time. I don't even know who you're talking about. I know the first guy, but like there were so many people that I've never even heard of before. I can't keep track of all their names. I just genuinely can't.
Okoye is the one who got smacked with Atuma's spear on the bridge.
Oh yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, the bald one with the gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I
And
do
then
remember
Nakia is
her.
the one who is, I guess, like T'Challa's girlfriend. I don't know. I don't think they were married, but
I
she has
still
his
don't. Is
son.
that the one from like Haiti?
Yeah, the one
Okay.
that rescued him.
Was she even in the first movie?
hmm
I don't even remember her.
you remember when it's like the opening scene when he attacks like the all the cars in the jungle,
Yeah, that was cool.
and they have, yeah, she was the one of those people that was in the car that they were rescuing.
Oh, did she play much more of a role than that though?
Yeah, I mean they were like a couple or whatever,
I
and
don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of the first Black Panther. I
yeah.
don't know why. I found it something just was not clicking for me. I eventually watched it. I'm like, it's a perfectly good movie all around. Nothing, no real complaints. I just
mhm.
didn't. There was just I don't know. So
I think the
yeah.
villain was the best part about that one. Like Michael B. Jordan is such a good actor. Killmonger was like a really relatable villain. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
see his side of the story and you could understand him. Whereas with
Yeah, that was a
Namor,
good
it's
one.
like I can't really relate with this guy because he's lived for thousands of years and he wants to kill the whole surface world. But I think the real villain in this movie is the US government. That's
Oh yeah,
that was the real villain in the whole movie.
that was that. They made it a point. That
Yeah.
was yeah. Oh man. Well, hey, I think that just about wraps up my thoughts on this movie here. Anything else you want to add? Anything you thought they did well or poorly before we wrap up?
I think that's about it.
Alrighty then. Well, hey, thanks for hopping on, Quinn. We'll have you on with Zeth at some point. Maybe we can, I don't know, whenever the next Marvel movie's out, or maybe if you haven't seen the delightful movie, I actually have nothing this time. Thanks for having us on.
Andor.
Thanks for hopping on, Igor.
No, Andor. The Star Wars show?
Oh, I'm like 2 episodes in. I gotta finish it up.
Bro, it's so
It's
good.
good,
You gotta
good.
watch that. Yeah, it's so good.
I will. I promise I'll finish that one soon. We'll have you on when we finish that. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty. Thanks for watching. Bye.